Hello again, my fellow Jeti users, and in this episode I thought we'd take a look at LUA Apps for your transmitter. LUA is just a programming language in which you can write, of course, applications or apps, and a few model aircraft transmitter manufacturers have allowed the ability on their transmitter to run LUA apps to do various things, and Jeti is one of them. If you have a 12 or a 24, I believe LUA is just installed. That's how it is. If you've got the older transmitters, like I've got a 16 here, and I believe in the 14, they were never designed to run LUA in the first place. But a firmware upgrade a little while ago, Jeti allowed the 14 and the 16 a little bit of resource in terms of processor, memory, or whatever, to run LUA apps. So they are restricted in the ones they can run, because if the LUA app requires more memory than the 14 or 16 can give it, then it cannot run it. The 16 and I guess the 14 as well are restricted to at most 2 LUA apps running due to their limitations, although I found that just one LUA app alone can use up most of the resource, and if we try running a second one, it crashes if the two of them combined are using more than the very limited resource available. Please note that if it crashes, it does just appear to crash the LUA apps. It doesn't crash the transmitter and its firmware controlling the model. But it does show that you wouldn't necessarily want to try and program LUA to control something vital in the model, like its main controls. Okay, so if you've got a 12 or a 24, you can just skip the next few seconds. If you have a 14 or 16, you have to install the specific LUA firmware. I'm sorry about the flicker on video. There's nothing I can do about that watching a laptop screen. So if you've got a 14 or 16, you would choose the update. And here we are. You can choose to install the standard version, which is no LUA, or the LUA version, which allows you to run LUA. That's interesting. If I put my hand there, the flicker stops. Okay. So I've installed the LUA version for me. So if it's 12 or 24, I don't think you get that option. It just runs LUA. Then you come back in your Jeti Studio to the LUA App Manager. And I think my Wi-Fi has failed again, which means it's struggling to load things down. Yep, we'll come back in a second. Yep, we're back with the working Wi-Fi again. I'm sorry, it keeps dropping in and out in my workshop. Okay, so the LUA App Manager, I've got ticked Show Only Compatible, in which case the system knows I have a 16, and it will only show me the apps that a 16 can run. It won't show me anything that's too big for a 16 to run. If you've got a 12 or 24, presumably it would show you everything, or you just untick that. You can show only installed ones. So if I tick that box, we'll show what I've got installed on my transmitter. Now, installed is not the same thing as running. I'm assuming that installed simply means we've copied it down to the memory card on the transmitter, and there's no sort of limitation on the 16 there other than the size of the memory card. I could install dozens of them. It doesn't mean I'm running them. You only run them in the individual model memory. Okay, so we get back to the main thing. And so if you look down here, you've got some apps for various things written by different people, but it's on Jeti Studio, so I say, well, I'm assuming that Jeti has sort of checked them for being okay. Keep coming down, you've got apps written by Jeti themselves. There's a tick against some of them. As you can see, those are the ones I've already installed. And then we get on to apps written by some other people, and a whole load of apps written by Tero at the website rc-thoughts.com. Lots there, and you can see I've taken some of them. Want to know more about an app? Just simply click on it. It tells you now which transmitters can run this, so a 16 can run it, that's fine for me. And then in this pane over here, it tells you more about it. That's what it can do, what it looks like. Most of them tend to be about doing things with telemetry or the way that stuff is displayed on the main screen. But there are various other things. For instance, Jeti's got the automatic trainer switch in there, pre-flight checklists, all sorts of things. There's some very interesting stuff going on in here, so well worth a look. Right, having done that, you select the one you want. You press the install button. It won't go up there because I've already installed that. Let's choose that one. It's loading it, tells you about it, and if you want it, come down here, press the install button. It will download it to your transmitter. And once it's there, it's available for you to use. Okie dokie. Now let's shut this down and out of the way and go into looking at LUA on the transmitter. Close that out for a moment. Disconnect the laptop. And I shall switch on the model so it's ready to go. Oh. That's what comes of not preparing.
Signal lost. Flaps off. Signal lost. Signal lost.
There we go. Sorry about the slight delay there. Now then, you go into Menu, Applications, User Applications, and this is where we can choose from our library of what we want. So the one that really made me think LUA is the thing to have is something called Virtual Sensor. So we press plus, and here's our little library that's on the card, Virtual Sensor. We'll choose that. Say OK. There we go. So we've got Virtual Sensor running on this model, and it's model specific, so it's not going to appear in any others. So I press the programming button to go into it and select sensor 1. So that will be my velocity. Okie dokie. And sensor 2 is the vario. Both of these are running in meters per second, so I don't have to do any different calculations for the fact they're using different units. And what I want to do is calculate the glide angle of this glider. I've got the m speed in it, so that's how I've got velocity. I've got a vario in it, I've got a vario. So simply dividing the velocity by the vario will give me the glide angle. And that'll be very helpful for setting up this big 7-meter span Nimbus when I'm doing its test flights, trying to find the sort of optimum cruise trim setting. I can adjust and find where I'm getting the best glide angle. Okay, so sensor name, we'll call it glide angle. Say okay to that. And this is lovely, this result. Press the button, and now we're allowed to choose or write our arithmetical equation. See there P1 and P2, that, if we just go back, was sensor 1 and sensor 2. Okie dokie. Right, so it will be P1, the velocity. So press the button. There's the first bit of our equation. If I scroll along here, divided by, and I'll want it to be divided by minus the vertical speed, because of course when the glider is descending, the vertical speed will be a negative number, and I want the virtual sensor to return a positive number just makes it easier in your mind to see the glide angle is 20 to 1 rather than minus 20 to 1. And therefore, just purely for the sake of making sure I don't fall foul of any PEMDAS rules about the priority of stuff, I'll say brackets. Is that the minus sign? Yes, minus P2, close brackets. Lovely. Say OK. And there we go. It's flickering away with a little glide angle. There is no glide angle at the moment because, of course, velocity is 0, vertical speed is 0. And now I've got the thing actually calculating a glide angle on live data. Wonderful. What can we do with it? Say OK to that. Well, sadly, not a lot at the moment. And I've written to Jeti suggesting that they improve it if it's possible for it. If we go into timers, sensors, into displayed telemetry, we can add from LUA, there we go, virtual sensor, use double size, no, and we'll say OK, come back out, have a look, and there we are. Displayed telemetry, live calculation of the glide angle. But as you saw, you could be using different sensors calculating different things. Of course, if I'm trying to trim out my glider, I don't want to keep looking down at the screen. I need it to speak to me or log the data. Sadly, this one doesn't seem to do that. If we go into timer, sensors logging setup, it shows, of course, the various sensors in the central box, but there's no ability to log the virtual sensor output, and it doesn't seem to be available in any of the voice outputs either. So have a look. Just move that. No. Try a different switch. Take that one just for the moment. Come along. No, there is no LUA option there, sadly. Say OK out to this one. And it's not available in any of the repeater trigger switches. Which is a shame. As I say, I've written to Jeti asking if it's possible to do it, because just having it on screen is not very helpful. Okie doke, that's one of them. Now, my transmitter cannot run virtual sensor and another thing. It's just too hungry on it. So what we're going to do is just remove it for the moment so we can show you another one. So I'll simply go there, select it, press X, really delete, yes. Now, another lovely one, where I'm running a central box 200 in this glider. And with CB200, you get each of the two battery voltages, each of the two input currents, each of the 2 milliamp hours consumed so far. And putting that in displayed telemetry will therefore take up 6 boxes. There's a lovely little app called CB Bat Monitor, or CB Batmon anyway. So we choose that and we go into it now, and here's all the settings in it. So number of cells, well, it's a 2-cell lithium ion because I'm using Jeti power ions. So it's 2 cells, battery type, lithium ion, capacity, they are 5200, so I shall press the menu button a couple of times. I get up to 1000 times per step, so for 5000, press the menu button, it drops to 10s, goes to 200, so there we go, there's 5200 capacity. Voltage display, single cell, no, it's I want the battery pack. There are 2 S's, I haven't got one of those sensors that shows each individual cell, so I want the voltage to display the battery pack voltage. Right, sensor battery 1, voltage sensor is going to be the CBOX200U for accumulator 1. The current sensor will be the CBOX200I for ACU1, and capacitance sensor, CBOX200 capacity 1. Come on down, sensor battery 2. So I want it to use the U for accumulator 2, the I for accumulator 2, and the capacitance for accumulator 2. And I think that's, oh, alarm. You can even have alarm settings. Alarms at certain percentage, play out a voice file. There we go. Say OK to that. Right, that's running, and I'll show you what this looks like. What we can do now is, once again, go to our timer sensors, displayed telemetry, add from LUA, CB battery monitor, and what I'm going to do is move its priority up in the menu so that it shows on the front screen. We'll put it there, I think. Say OK. Come out and have a look. Back to the front screen, and there we are. This is the result of that LUA app. Instead of 6 boxes showing the individual voltages, currents, and milliamp hours, we've got one double box showing a calculation of a percentage. How accurate that is, I don't know, but it'll be working off the voltage somehow. The bars, of course, will go down as we go. It's showing the milliamp hours consumed, the input voltage, and the live current going, and it's all done there lovely in this LUA app. So there's just a couple of examples of the nice things that LUA apps can do. There's a whole load there. Go and have a look. You might find some very useful ones in there. And we've seen also how to get it running if you're using a 14 or a 16. So do have a play with LUA apps. They can do some very nice things, so enjoy that.